What's going on, boys and girls? It's Sal from Exiles, back again after a few relatively unsuccessful banlist prediction videos and a few unsuccessful rogue deck profiles. I'm here to give a new competitive deck profile for you to try out during the whole isolation period. And it's Mermail. Now, on the surface, Mermail is a deck that you will probably need to invest some money in to implement it at its core. I'm playing this deck as competitively as possible at the current state of affairs, and I'm just giving it a small little spin, but keeping it sort of fresh and interesting for you guys. And let me know what you think. This is more so pure Mermail. There's less of the deep sea shenanigans in this. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, starting off with the main deck, we have 3 copies of Megalo. See, Mermail Abyss Megalo is your go-to big beater. This guy can attack twice by sending a face-up water monster on your field to the graveyard. On summon, he can search any abyss spell or trap, and you can special summon him from your hand by discarding 2 other water monsters to the graveyard. This in turn will trigger your Atlantean effects, and he's all round just a really good card to have access to. Wins games by himself. Next, 3 Abystius. This is your main combo starting card. So you can special summon him by discarding 1 other water monster in your hand to the graveyard. On summon, he can add any level 4 or lower Mermail monster from your deck to your hand. This affects a hard once per turn, but you can summon this guy with his own effect as many times as you want. This guy in combination with the Atlantean Dragoons can end you in so many ridiculous combos, and there are YouTubers out there that can show you how insane these combos can get. So yeah, this guy's a staple for you. We're playing 2 Gund, up 1 copy from my last deck profile. Gund is so important in this deck because it gives you that extra recursion and summoning from the graveyard once she's discarded, and it just makes everything sort of flow in the right direction for you. So she's really important. Not to mention she's a level 3, so if you use her in conjunction with a level 1 tuner, then you can go into Herald of the Arclight, giving you an additional negation on board. 1 copy of Pike and 1 copy of Sturge. So both of these guys, if normal or special summoned, you can discard a water monster to the graveyard. Pike can add a level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand, and Sturge can add a level 3 or lower water monster from your graveyard back to your hand. So Sturge is really nice for recursion, and Pike is really nice to get you access to stuff like Mermail Abyss Gund or Mermail Abyssdine. Now, I've seen a few people play Abyssdine. I really like Abyssdine because if you haven't got access to Dragoons and Abystius in your hand, and you have Abystius, you can discard any other water monster, and then Abystius can add this, and she'll be able to summon herself. But the only problem with Abyssdine is that if you discard Dragoons with Abystius, she will miss timing and won't be able to summon herself out of the hand. So you just need to be careful like that. But however, when she's summoned by the effect of a Mermail monster, I believe, you can target any level 3 or lower Mermail in your graveyard and special summon it. So again, that's a really nice thing to have. However, you can only choose 1 of her effects to activate per turn, and most of the time it will be the effect that she activates when she's added from the deck to the hand. Now that's it for the Mermails. Now we're on to triple Deep Sea Diva. This card recently went to 3 because of the release of the new Deep Sea archetype. When it's normal summoned, you can bring out any level 3 or lower Sea Serpent from your deck. This card just explodes all of your combos, and the longer you can hold off normal summoning before getting her out, the better, because you can really hit that sweet spot of your combo and just keep going until you've established a board, like a ridiculous board, or all of the cards in your opponent's hand have now vanished into non-existence. 3 Neptibus, need I say more? A perfect card. You have Neptibus on the field, you use its effect. You can send any Atlantean monster from your deck to the graveyard to add any different Atlantean from your deck to your hand other than Prince. And if you go Dragoons and then add Dragoons, you can send any Atlantean, add any Atlantean, as long as it's not Prince. And that's just bloody fantastic. And not only that, if Prince is sent to the graveyard for a water monster's effect, you can bring back any Atlantean from your graveyard. So yeah. And then the boy himself, Dragoons. This card is so satisfying to play around with. Basically, if it's sent to the graveyard for the effect of a water monster, you can add any sea serpent from your deck to your hand. Any sea serpent at all. Now, let's not forget, Atlantean Dragoons does have another effect, which means that all face-up level 3 or lower sea serpent monsters you control can attack your opponent directly. This can come in clutch, especially with cards like Atlantean Marksman, because when things like Atlantean Marksman that inflict damage to your opponent, you can special summon any level 4 or lower Atlantean sea serpent type monster from your deck. And that's fantastic. And another thing is the search effect for Dragoons is not once per turn. So, yeah. Now on to our removal Atlanteans. 2 copies of Infantry and 1 copy of Marksman. Infantry, when sent for a water monster's effect, can destroy face-up cards. Marksman can destroy face-down cards. You can alternate between more copies of each of these in your side deck, depending on your matchup. So you'd bump up additional copies of Marksman if you are against heavy back row and setting decks, and you'd play additional copies of Infantry instead of Marksman if you are playing against heavy face-up decks. 2 copies of Gameciel. Oh, before I carry on, another important thing to note is that heavy infantry gives you an additional normal summon of a level 4 or lower sea serpent while it's on the field. So you might want to actually take into consideration how useful that might be, and it comes in clutch a lot. And it's won me games, like especially like even Marksman's effect to summon monsters out of the deck when it inflicts battle damage. Like that has won me so much, that so many games that I just, yeah. 2 Gameciel, it's a kaiju. When Dragoon comes out, these are going to be all over the place, so get your kaijus while you can. 1 copy of Mermail Glacier. On my last ban list discussion video, I thought that I think that Mermail Glacier deserves to be banned, if not heavily errated, because it's so free and easy to access in this deck. You summon it out of your hand, discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand. It's a really good card, and we know how much Konami doesn't like hand loops, so yeah, this is something to look out for. 1 Aqua Spirit, it's a level 4 that can special summon itself and can help you go into your Bahamut Shark plays. 1 Lapis Dragon, if it's added to the hand, you can special summon it, and Dragoons adds to the hand, Sea Serpents, yeah. 1 Launcher, because we've got them Crystron Halqifibrax plays going on. Again, stupid card. It's probably going to be another one of them tuners to see hit at some point, but either that or they'll just give Halqifibrax a hit. 3 copies of Deep Sea Aria. Yeah, I know I said this is a pure Mermail deck, but Deep Sea Aria searches any Sea Serpent, and you'd be fucking foolish not to play this card in the deck. As far as I can remember, it's not that expensive at the moment, so if you're a Mermail or Sea Serpent deck player in general, get your copies of this while you still can, seriously. 3 copies of Called by the Grave. It stops your opponent and helps your plays go through. 2 copies of Pot of Avarice. This card I'll probably end up taking out if Mermail Glacier does get hit, because Pot of Avarice is your sort of insurance policy for when you resolve your Mermail Glacier and you know you've got those 5 monsters in your graveyard that you haven't got any use for again. You can just shuffle them back and then draw again, so that's really good. But it's also a really nice card to have, and I love Pot of Avarice now. I probably prefer it over Desires, in fact, at the moment, but what can you do? 1 for 1, and the 2 Abyss cards we're playing are 1 Mizuchi and 1 Sphere. Now, you haven't probably seen Sphere be played for many years. Sphere is mostly due to the synchroing on your opponent's turn plays, because this can bring any Mermail out of your deck. Mizuchi boosts a Mermail it's equipped to by 800, and it automatically negates the first spell effect that your opponent has and destroys itself, essentially. So yeah. Now moving on to the extra deck. We're starting off in a bit of a weird order. We're going off the XYZs. 1 Abyss-YGO, an amazing card, really big beat stick. Essentially, can skill drain all of your opponent's monsters with less attack than it. Level 5 or higher monsters can't attack, meaning if your opponent's playing really big synchro monsters like an Adamancer Beta, this essentially just stops them from even doing anything. One copy of True King of all Calamities is the rank 9. I don't really need to explain why this card is so good. It essentially stops your opponent from playing once it's out. One copy of Enter Blafnir because, well, you want to hand loop your opponent, right? May as well just go full throttle and just make sure they can't do anything at all. Make sure they don't have a hand. You know, this is a competitive Mermail deck, so in order to be competitive, you've got to make sure that your opponent can't play, and you've got to make sure your opponent has a really bad time. And I hate this way of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's the best way of playing at the moment because that's all you can really do. One copy of Abyss Dweller. It's a water, boosts your other water monsters and floodgates your opponent's graveyard. Not to mention, if you detach a material from like a Dragoons from it, the Dragoons will still kick its effect off because it was sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect. And the same applies to cards like Bahamut Shark and its partner in crime, Totally Awesome. Bahamut Shark just summons Totally Awesome out of the deck for free. One Formula Synchron in case you want that additional synchro power when it's your opponent's turn and get your extra draw. One Herald of the Arclight. It's a generic negate on a level 4 generic synchro. One Desert Locusts, because that's yet another card out of your opponent's hand gone in their turn in combination with Halqifibrax. One Adamancer Beta Risen Dragite. This negates spell or traps, and it's a generic water synchro monster. So you can always apply its effect and negate. One Trishula, we all know how strong he is. One Ravenous Crocodragon. This is a generic level 9 synchro that can draw cards equal to the number of non-tuners used for its material. And it has a quick effect that lets you discard 2 cards to target any card on the field and destroy it. And this does trigger your Atlanteans. So yeah, that's lots of fun to have. So in combination with your Atlantean Marksmen and Infantry, if you discard those, you essentially get 3 pops for the price of, well, more than that. You get 3-4 pops for the price of 2 cards. It's insanity. One Abyssalacia. This is a very good disruption card, especially have a Atlantean in your hand. You can discard it in your opponent's turn to disrupt their plays. Not to mention it boosts the water monsters it's pointing to by 500. The one Mistarboy also gives your monsters an additional 500 attack points. And finally, Crystron Halqifibrax. Now, I'm a bit mixed on Halqifibrax. It's one of those cards I see definitely getting to the point where it's either banned or at the very least limited, simply for the fact that this card is causing so much bullshit at the moment that Konami isn't going to want to have to ban every single busted tuner in the game. Sorry, pardon me. Just to make sure that Halqifibrax remains legal and a selling point. But we know we can't all have nice things. I'm saying at least if Konami wants to keep Halqifibrax, then they're going to have to give us back some other like archetypal really good cards that people have been wanting for a long time. But that's just me. Halqifibrax's interaction in this deck is essentially what makes the deck do its unfair stuff. It helps you loop your opponent's hand even more by getting Desert Locusts out. It helps you synchro summon in your opponent's turn by using cards like Formula Synchron and things like Herald of the Arclight. And yeah, it's just ridiculous. It gets any tuner out of your deck. You summon Fishball Launcher and it's just full combo because Launcher can revive itself and you just synchro and synchro and synchro and synchro. I'm sure if you've seen MST TV's Mermail video, that you'll be able to see exactly how far this deck can go. Not to say that the deck is still very susceptible to interruptions like Ash, Veiler, and all of that stuff, but it can also, not only can the deck now build extremely formidable boards going first, but it's still Mermail. Mermail can still OTK through a lot of negations. So you just need to keep that in mind. Only invest in Mermail if you are confident in your skills with the deck. only invest in it if you have, you know, if you don't fear for its future. I love Mermail, and I just want to make it as playable as possible at the moment. And I'm going to carry on sticking with this deck, even if it does end up getting any hits on the ban list, because that's what Mermail players do. And if you have any questions about why this isn't max rarity, well, I could still beat someone with a max rarity Mermail deck. So, you know, same thing, same thing. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. It's been Al from Exiles, and I will catch you in the next one. See you later.